Hello, everybody. My name is Radoslav Stankov, and I'm right now in Bulgaria, where I'm from. And this is the place I'm like broadcasting right now now. And since I actually have a bit more time this time, so I'm going to rush into three parts. My talk would be into three parts, which I'm going to share with you. And if you have any questions, just put them in the chat. I have a second laptop so I can see all the questions. So the first thing I want to give you is the context, because you cannot talk about like how to build a system, how do you build a company or whatever if you don't know what's the correct context, because there isn't any right answers. The things I'm going to share, some things work with us, some things don't work with us. With other companies, they can not work or work. So, as the name of the talk mentions, I'm going to talk about Product Hunt. I'm in Product Hunt for the last 6 years now. This is how most people know Product Hunt, by the Product Hunt homepage, where it's the place where people launch their new products. But how does this all started? Like, how does Product Hunt started? So, actually, Product Hunt started in 2013, and initially it just started as a newsletter. It didn't have a website. It didn't supposed to have a website. Product Hunt started just as a daily newsletter, which we still have to this day. Like, we deliver millions and millions and emails of our newsletter with the greatest posts. But the newsletter we started become really popular. So we actually got some funding, and you might recognize some of those names. So at this point, we started building the Product Hunt as a product and not just like a newsletter. We took a lot of care. We built a lot of features. We built an awesome team, and we got acquired by AngelList a couple of years back. And the thing which connects the two companies is that we both companies believe that the startups are here to save the world. And especially in this day and age, and especially this year, that's very relevant. And a lot of times people ask me, how do Product Hunt actually makes money? Like, because a lot of people know Product Hunt as the brand, they know the homepage, but they're always wondering how we are here to make money. And the way we do is basically we try to help startups. Like, the whole goal of Product Hunt is to help smaller companies, bigger companies, indie developers, is to help them just build awesome products. So a lot of the things we actually monetize is we have something called Founders Club, which gives you tools if you are a maker, a founder, or a small company, to actually have access to awesome tools to build your startup. We also have something called Product Hunt Ship, which is basically we codified the way we saw successful launches, because launching a new product is a process. And of course, we also have advertisement. And 2019, and this is all the revenue stuff I'm just going to share, is 2019, we started a whole new project, which internally it started as a feature of Product Hunt, but it grew to something bigger. It's called Your Stack, and it's a totally new website, which we are currently in beta testing. We are trying to build and grow. And as you notice so far, we have a lot of products. Like, we are launching a lot of stuff ourselves. So this is the whole Product Hunt company right now. This is the whole company. There isn't anybody else here in the Product Hunt family right now. And I'm just going to highlight just the engineering talent, because this talk is mostly about how we at engineering are developing all Product Hunt and all its supplementary products and features. And if you notice right now, we have 6 people, and at the peak, which was like 3-4 years ago, we had 8 developers. This was like, I think, the max amount of developers we ever have. And a lot of our team is here for years now. So we actually have a very good retention rates of our engineering talent, but we intentionally keep our team to be small. Also, since day one, the whole company is distributed in remote. If you notice this is basically a map which shows everybody in the team where they are right now, or they were at the time this map was made. I think some of my colleagues moved during that time, but we were designed to be a remote first company, and we are remote for the last since 2013 basically, and we had to develop our own processes around that. There is if when you build a company or a startup, which is also a company, of course, usually there is like three phases the startup goes through. The first one is called explore. This is the phase where you are trying to find your place in the world. You get some market fit, you grow, you build your product, but in general, you're trying to get to product market fit and actually find out what you are for, what your product and company is about, and show to the world that you can deliver on that promise. The next phase, if you notice, is the expand phase. And the expand phase is the phase where you actually get some traction and you have to rapidly grow. And extract phase is when you have an exit IPO and usually you build your product. Right now, we are, I think, moving still to the expand phase. We are still growing, we are still experimenting. And this is one of our mottos, that we move fast and have breakfast. So healthy living. And our whole process is designed around that. Our whole process is designed of all those constraints. I'm going to show you that we are in a very early stage of development, especially your stack. It's less than a year since we announced it, and we are a remote company. So for us, having a process like this doesn't work. For me, the process we have is an automatic decisions for trivial questions and framework for making decisions for other questions. So basically, the process is something to support you and to get out of your way and not just force you into doing stuff. Our process, like again, from 2013 to now, there's like almost 7 years, and we have changed a lot. Like we have gone through a lot of iterations of our internal process. But there is a couple of things which were pretty much existent from day one. And I mean, some of them grew, but I wanted to share those with you because I think those were one of the most important things, how we were able to scale from one newsletter subscriber to the millions of users who visit us. So the 5 things which are basically keeping our engineering organizations, the first one is called single player mode. The second one is automation, code review, constant delivery, and maintenance. And I'm going to look at all those things separately. So first, the single player mode. This is like a lot of people, when they think single player mode, that's what they imagine. They have a bunch of managers, random stakeholders, and a sole developer just digging around. And that's not the single player mode we are talking about. The way we are doing our single player mode is we want everybody on our team to be a self-executing unit, so they can basically take an idea, build the backend, build the front end, optimize the servers, set up the database, style the CSS, make some design decisions, and make some product decisions. Basically, when we have a project, the project can be worked with one engineer. I mean, we can add more, but usually we give the tasks to one engineer, and they're responsible from the whole end of this project. They're responsible even for setting up the scope, clearing up those roadblocks, and basically we try to design our products so they don't have any dependencies in terms of code, in terms of other people. Like, for example, if an engineer has to wait to a decision from a designer or a product manager, and let's say the designer is in Paris and the engineer is in India and the product person is in Los Angeles, it would slow us down a lot. So what we try to do is that we make everybody to be empowered to make product decisions and all the technical decisions. And right now we are experimenting with fixed 2-week sprints. Like, the idea here is we try to say, you have a project, you have 2 weeks, execute, and you are free to adjust your scope to fit those 2 weeks projects. And if you want, you can take 2 more weeks, but you cannot take 2 more days. You can only work in chunks of 2 weeks. And this was very helpful for us because it helps us build like a beat. Basically, the whole company knows, okay, every 2 weeks we change projects. Every 2 weeks we get to a project. So it creates a really good beat. We are still experimenting with this. This is something fairly new and we are still adjusting, but it's what's quite useful for us. And a lot of times when people hear, okay, yeah, you have all those single player people, but doesn't this make a lot of issues? Doesn't this make a chaos? So we try to battle the chaos with automation. It's like a lot of technical decisions, which I have seen in other tech companies, people argue to death. We basically automate it. We set up a lot of linters. We depend a lot of unit testing. We have everything almost automated as much as possible, so the people can just focus on executing their jobs. We are also big on code review. This is one of our core things. You cannot merge a code in our system without it going through at least one or two other developers giving it for review. And the way our process works is basically everybody just executes and ships stuff and follow all the guidelines, and everybody has a lot of freedom. And since we released a lot of things actually don't see a light of day for every user. We use very aggressive feature flagging, which has two benefits. It allows us to test features on different user groups, and also allows us to turn off features if there is an issue with the feature. For example, if the feature cannot scale. So basically, for every user, we check if the feature is on and off. And yeah, this is how our admin panel for this looks like. So we can pick actors, percentage of time, users. And the way we develop is on day one, the code for this feature already lives in the production application. So we know it's integrated. So we don't spend time integrating. By the end of the first week, it's already tested by admins. So we actually know the feature works from other people in our group. And by week 2, we push it to a small beta group. And again, by the end of the sprint, everybody has access to a feature. Or if the feature is like multiple sprints, this gets shut up. And moving in this process actually leaves a lot of holes for us. Like, it leaves a lot of bugs. It leaves a lot of technical debt around it, everybody being. So what we have is something we call Happy Friday. So every Friday, an engineer has a duty which is assigned to them. And one engineer, for example, their duty is to go and pick exceptions. Some of engineers, their duty is to go and check our database performance. One of our engineers is responsible for bumping up dependencies from NPM packages, Ruby gems, and stuff around that. One engineer is responsible for paying technical debt and guiding code migrations. We also have like bug fixes, which are low priority bug fixes, but we want them fixed. They don't want them to scale. So we have that. So that's basically our process in a nutshell. And for my third part, I'm just going to show you a bit more on the technical side, how Product Hunt is built. On the technical side, since we are still again on a startup, we experiment a lot, we iterate, we remove a lot of features that doesn't work. So a big quality of our system is for it to be decoupled, but decoupled in terms of code, not decoupled in terms of microservices, because we have tried those and they have a very big problem with the single player mode. If a person has to update like 3 microservices to get a feature, it doesn't work. So we keep our code in a monorepo, but it's decoupled. Like a lot of our infrastructure is again built on the moment. And our values for the system is to have a good default. So everybody can just start using some component from our system and it shouldn't be much tuning. We keep our code very organized, very nicely namespace grouped. We try to make the common operations easy. Like if something is very common, like an engineer making a database change, which can break the whole system, we make this very easy and we add a lot of automation around that. We also isolate a lot of the external dependencies, like basically a lot of the services we use, which are not ours. And we try to design code around being extendable and reusable. Our architecture history is, again, I'm just going to quickly go through it. In 2014, we were using Ruby on Rails, which we still do. and we were on Heroku. In 2015, we switched to React for our front end, and we started using a lot more Docker for internal development. In 2016, we again added a library for React called Redux, and we switched from Heroku to Fargate, which is a Docker container running infrastructure on AWS. And in 2017, we switched to GraphQL. Like we switched our Rails backend to use GraphQL together with Apollo. And in 2019, when we started Your Stack, we started using Kubernetes because we already have laid ground a lot of the terms. Like if you notice, every year we are trying to experiment with some new technology which builds on something else we have added the years before. Like we couldn't go to Kubernetes or Fargate before moving to Docker. And the way we think about it is we plan for 6 months ahead in terms of scaling. Like what if we double our numbers in the next 6 months? How would our infrastructure change? And this was a very good guiding principle, and it gives us a lot of leeway. Like a couple of times it was like, yeah, I mean, if we double, we just need to pay for more servers, that's all. So we are good and we don't need to change. This is how our application looks from architectural level. And again, as I mentioned, we keep a monolithic repo with the Ruby on Rails as a monolith, and we just organize code because it's easier for a single player engineer to change the code. And yeah, that's a bit about what I was wanting to share with you guys today. I slipped a bit fast because I had like 15 minutes. So if anybody got a slip and missed at the end, all my slides, I'm just going to share them in the chat in a bit. So you can just go slowly to the chat. And if you have any questions, I would check the chat board.